It's Thursday, it's 8 o'clock, and I haven't finished what I was doing yet. Good evening, Adrian. How are you?
You all right, Dave? Evening, everyone. Yeah,
I've been there in a minute. I'm scrolling through Twitter because there's millions of.
What are you doing?
I was on Twitter tweeting, and I was retweeting via the ArcMD mag, and there's like 7 million. 7 million cyborg. Yeah. 7 million tweety things. I don't use Twitter. I can't get my head around Twitter or Instagram.
Arguments, just full of arguments. People arguing.
That's Facebook. Anyway, good evening. How are you, young man?
Yeah, I'm good. Back at work like you, Dave, and everyone else this week. So, yeah,
that's
bit
why
bizarre,
I've got no face, and my usual inability to speak properly will probably go tenfold tonight. Excuse me.
And breathe, by the look of it.
Breathe. No, that was a hiccupy burpy thing going on.
Yeah. Very excited with Stephen coming on the show tonight.
I am myself, and I think you'll all be excited to see his images. There's one in particular I was quite agog at. Well, there's several I was agog at, but one in particular was his. I think it's a picture of his little museum, and it's quite astonishing, to be honest. So before we bring him in, I've shared a video. It's the trailer to World War II Treasure Hunters, so people know what we're on about. So, Luke, if you could roll VT.
They're sending me back to war.
Oh, God!
Get digging, they said. Hold on, I'm the one doing the digging. You're having all the fun. Crikey! This is madness. What are you hoping to find?
Spitfire,
Pathfinders.
British light bomber, military camps, secret bases.
And the truth about our wartime past. Oh, we've got some biscuits as well, look at that.
Gather your troops and dig in together.
It was here that the battle really began.
World War II Treasure Hunters. Mondays at 9 on Blaze.
And there you go. So, without further ado, good evening, Stephen. How are we?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
Simply lovely.
Hi, Stephen.
Hope there's no children get that quote. If there is, good lads.
I've not seen that trailer before, actually. In that trailer, where we're sat down having lunch, Suggs did actually bring me some hardtack that one of the specialists we'd had on the show had cooked specifically for me. It was,
Wow.
hardtack and corned beef he gave me.
What's hardtack? I've never heard of that.
Hardtack was what they used in World War One. It was basically a biscuit that was baked so much that it was rock hard. I mean, in the show itself, I have to take a pair of pliers to it to get it apart to actually eat it.
That sounds like biscuits I'd probably make. I'd probably eat them as well. It's anyway, pleasure to have you on. That was just to obviously introduce you for people who don't know you, people who've obviously lived under a rock for a period of time. But not only obviously have you appeared on World War II Treasure Hunters, but previously on TV, still available on Netflix. You were on Battlefield Recovery.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was an interesting show, an interesting experience, shall we say?
Yeah, it certainly looks it. I mean, I was. It was under so much flack. Good word for a military show. Flack originally when it first aired. I shied away from it a little bit, but then obviously I've come back to it, and I must admit, I thoroughly enjoyed it the second time around watching it on Netflix. So, Steve, what is your history yourself? How did you get into the whole military metal detecting, etc.?
Well, I was like any other boy back in the 70s, really. I had Airfix kits, and I basically had the RAF and the Luftwaffe performing dogfights from my ceiling. I used to make models all the while. Then when I was 10, my father bought me my first World War II book. So I collected books for a long period of time and used to read them avidly over and over again, learning about the battles and what happened during World War II. And then around about 25 years ago, I was on holiday in Normandy, and I was sat on a seawall at a place called Saint-Aubin-sur-Mer on the very last day of the holiday, and my 5-year-old son was with me. And it was quite a windy day, and there was a big old surf rolling in, and he suddenly jumped off the seawall, ran down to the edge of the sea, picked something up and ran back with it. And when he opened his hand, he'd got a cartridge case in his hand. Now, at that point, I had absolutely no idea what kind of cartridge case it was, but I just assumed that it was from the Normandy battle, from D-Day. And it suddenly struck me that the last person to touch this cartridge case was somebody that was involved in the biggest seaborne invasion that has ever happened and will ever happen. There will never be another D-Day again on that scale. And a couple of weeks later, I got my first metal detector, and that was it, really. I then spent the next 2 or 3 years digging up Coke cans, beer cans, fag packets, and condom wrappers. And on one very memorable occasion, I actually found a beer can in which was a fag packet and a condom wrapper. So somebody had obviously had down the woods. So I very quickly learned the value of research, and that was it, really. It was just getting permissions and searching on old RAF bases, which was my first passion. It was always aircraft, so I used to search RAF bases and United States Air Force bases, and then I branched out into Army and POW camps, and that was it.
We mentioned before the show we were discussing, because I couldn't place your accent, where you've lived in the past, and am I right in saying some of them locations are perfect locations for military bases?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I mean, where I am at the minute, I'm in the Midlands, so I'm in Leicestershire, and there's places. Oh, gracious! There's thousands of places within an hour's drive of me. So it's really quite straightforward to find military bases. The key is, though, is to find a military base that I have certain criteria. So the first one is that it can't have a modern use. If it's got a modern use, it's just going to be full of cake tins and pucker pie tins and Coke cans. And the other criteria that I will always look for is if it's got a patch of woodland that's been there from wartime until now, because woodland, I can guarantee it's never been ploughed, it's never been dug over, nobody's ever built on it, and they're the kind of places that I will search. So it's about getting permission for those places. Somebody asked me the other day, actually, whether or not I was finding it more difficult to get permissions nowadays. I had to admit to them that I've never once been denied permission to search a site. I don't know what it is. But
Sorry, Stephen, do you say how you've been on television? Does that help?
No, because a lot of the shows that we did for the television show were actually my sites anyway. So I'd already searched them. These weren't virgin sites. I mean, one thing that you have to understand about the television guys is that you get a brief that basically says you need to guarantee you'll find something. Well, hang on a minute. You don't quite understand the concept of metal detecting. You've got to walk over it to find it. That's why in some of the shows you'll see that, for instance, the show that we did at Quorn about the airborne and the German prisoners of war, I had 20 metal detectorists on that field because somebody told me 2 weeks beforehand it had been done to death and there was nothing left. So I was terrified we were going to find nothing. We ended up with 460 finds, including 7 German dog tags, 2 American dog tags, and so much ammunition that when I find live ammunition, obviously it gets handed in. But on this occasion, I asked the police to come to me because I've got 80 rounds of live ammunition, and the copper walked into the garage and went, "Bloody hell, where you know that from?" And I had to explain what I've been doing. And so, yeah, it's quite
nothing to do with the IRA, honest government.
No.
So how did the television side of it come in? How did they find you as such?
Well, I kind of came in on the back of Battlefield Recovery. Now, unfortunately, I'm not able to talk about Battlefield Recovery.
No, we understand
certain
that.
legal things hanging over my head. But what basically happened was the production company that were looking to produce Battlefield Recovery posted something on a forum that I used to be an administrator on. And I deleted the post because it sounded like it was somebody trying to find people to go and nick their stuff, and sent them an email saying, "Go away." We'll use those words, "Go away." And 2 days later, I got a telephone call from the producer saying, "No, it's legitimate. We're trying to find diggers that specialise in World War II." And 3 months later, I was invited for a screen test and ended up being one of the presenters on it. Now, on the back of that show, I actually had the idea for World War II treasure hunters. And that was presented to a production company a year or two after Battlefield Recovery had been aired and all the furore had calmed down. And fortunately, History Channel picked it up and we filmed it. So, yeah, that's how it was. I basically told somebody to go away.
Yeah, politely.
And Suggs. It was very impolitely.
I've just got to say, before I forget, jumping in, we are streaming for the first time tonight live on the Military History Network, which is basically a free version of Facebook, but directly for military, because apparently, I'm not 100% sure of this, a lot of groups being closed down or people are being banned for posting military-related artifacts on Facebook. So this is why one of the reasons the Military History Network was created. So thank you to Nick West and the team for allowing us to stream on there tonight. And also, we are back visibly on Facebook ourselves. But if you wouldn't mind just sharing the show tonight, if you're on Facebook, sharing the stream anywhere you could think of, we'd obviously appreciate that as well, because it is a show for yourselves and other metal detectorists and people interested in all the different varieties of things that we use. And I forgot to say that at the start, so I apologise for interjecting. Carry on.
Sorry,
I'm having real trouble at the minute because the screen is reflecting in my glasses and I can see. So I keep trying to turn my head so that the screen's not there. So if I look a bit strange, it's because I'm trying to. Yeah, there you go. I just look really weird.
Stay
the
there.
screen.
Tilt the screen, of course. Yeah, but then you'll just see my ceiling.
Put it down and we'll be looking at your shoes.
I ain't got any shoes on.
Or, yeah,
Got
or
me
something else.
fluffy rabbit slippers.
Nothing wrong with that. It is
Stephen-
Easter.
Yeah,
Stephen, Suggs, I like you. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. Suggs is like a little mini hero for a lot of us. And him presenting that show, I found was, I don't know, it's like you were talking to a mate. Is he got a real passion for World War II history?
no, he hasn't actually. No,
Because he came
developed it
across
very quickly.
Yeah.
but he didn't really have a passion for it. No, but he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. He's really down to earth.
Yeah, I found it. It confused me a bit when I watched it, because I was sort of waiting for him to come out and sing, but he didn't. But did he have a go at metal detecting or anything? Did he find it really interesting?
Yeah, he did. In actual fact, one of the things that we did was we tried to separate both of our roles completely in the show. So I was doing the digging, he was doing all the fun stuff. So it was a joke in that trailer when I said, hang on, I do all the digging, you're off having fun. But that's the way it was meant to be. So he flew in the Spitfire, he flew in the Mustang. Funnily enough, the bit in the episode where he actually rings me and says, I think he's put the phone down on me, I did. Because he was just about to take off in a Mustang and I put the phone down on him. But yeah, it was just the way that we separated it. So we got two completely different roles. But in one of the episodes where we filmed at Quorn, he actually found Leicestershire Regiment cap badge. Well, when I say found,
wow.
I did the detecting and showed him where to dig, but he did dig it up. So
brilliant. Oh, that's interesting. No, I find it quite interesting reading up on stuff, because when you were younger, you went to a lot of charity shops, and I myself, when I grew up loving World War II, because we hear all the history from our family and relatives, and the machine gunners. I don't know if you remember that on ITV, the kids program. The
Still
machine
get it
gunners.
on YouTube, Adrian. Still get it on
Sorry?
YouTube, and you can still get it free on YouTube, and it's mental.
Oh God! Well, I used to go to jumble sales and charity shops when I was a kid, and I'd come home with Warden helmets. I've got a spotlight, proper World War II spotlight in a box, like Morse code sort of thing. Ponchos, everything, because people threw stuff out in the 70s who'd passed away, who'd been in the Second World War, and I remember like seeing trench art, sort of like bullets, 303 bullets with a little penknife on with the cap and things like that. Jumble sales for like 2p, 5p. Did you find when you were younger you found a lot of stuff that way?
No, because I actually didn't look for the stuff then. I was still collecting books and making airfix models. So it wasn't until my what are we talking about now? My early 30s that I actually started digging up World War II relics, and it was all because of that cartridge case from that Normandy beach and realizing the history behind the object. So it's one of the things that I'm fairly well known for is the fact that I never ever sell anything that I recover, because there is no point. It's history to me. That I know the last person to touch it, or at least their unit. I know what it was involved in. So it doesn't have a monetary value to me. It has a historical value, and that's the important bit. That's the bit that I try and get across with World War II things. But by the way, before you go any further, you have performed the cardinal sin. You've called it a bullet. The bullet is the thing that comes out the weapon and flies.
I know that. Yeah.
And hits it.
I've been very fortunate. Sorry, bullet case. I have fortunately shot a 303 a few times, and it's a fantastic one. It was one of the world's most accurate rifles, up to I think it was a quarter of 2 miles or something. Brilliant rifle. Hell of a kick on it. Hell of a kick. But a lovely gun. If I could buy one, I would. Well, I could if I joined a gun club, but that's another matter.
You see,
I don't think
that's another interesting thing. Okay, that's another interesting thing. So people often say to me, especially other World War II enthusiasts, will say to me, "Well, don't you get fed up of digging up 303 cartridge cases all the while? That's the right terminology, by the way. And I say, well, no, because again, each one of them has got a bit of history behind it. So I've got somewhere in the region of 15,303 cartridges. Yet I still get as excited when I find one now as I did when I found my very first one.
Brilliant. And can you from the stamp on the bottom, can you look at it and straight away go, that was made by blah blah in here, etc.?
Yeah, I am that geeky. I can, yes.
Excellent. Because a lot of,
in fact, I've even written a blog on my website that gives you all of the head stamps for 303 cartridges and what they all mean.
Wow, what's the website?
It's StephenTaylorHistorian.com.
Sorry, say again.
StephenTaylorHistorian.com.
Everyone, that will crash now. Everyone's going because I find a lot of 303s, a lot of bullets in old ponds and streams. Because years ago,
you mean cartridge cases?
Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Ammunition in ponds or rivers or streams. Because I know for a fact my granddad, when he was detecting years ago, I shouldn't say this really, but he'd find live rounds and he just used to throw them in the stream because he said water will get into them and wipe them out. So I know exactly. I mean, how many people? But hence the time when I was a kid and you put one in a vice and hit it with a hammer and a nail. But I won't go there and make genies out of all the gunpowder. But there is still a lot of live rounds out there, and they are still dangerous, aren't they?
Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, this stuff was designed to kill, and just because you bury it for 70 years doesn't mean it isn't going to kill you. In actual fact, a lot of the explosives that particularly the Germans used towards the end of the war degrade so badly that it basically forms almost like a nitroglycerin on the inside of the shell casings. So if you find a big temporary shell case, in actual fact, you haven't even got to hit the primer. You've just got to tap it lightly and it's enough for it to go off, which is why there are still, unfortunately, quite a few people dying over in Europe from old German ordnance. And British ordnance is just the same. It's not nice stuff.
Right, because you don't hear about it on the news. And I know the NCMD did a video on YouTube the other week about the importance of finding old munitions and stuff. Yeah. So have you ever experienced any going off, or anyone you know had the unfortunate incident?
No, not going off, no. But then again, my metal detecting is really very strictly within the UK nowadays. It's just there's too much red tape to go detecting in Europe. I did it a couple of times for the show, but then again, they dealt with all the red tape, so it wasn't so much of an issue. But in places like Latvia, when we filmed Battlefield Recovery, what I can tell you is that on one of our days off, I was actually once taken to a patch of forest. Now, what you have to understand about Latvia is that the Russian army actually cordoned off huge swathes of forest. And when the Iron Curtain came down, these forests were opened back up again, but they were all in the location of where the Kurland battles used to happen. And now this was a static battle, basically, that went on for months and months and months. And it was the only area that the Germans never lost from Europe. It was the Kurland Peninsula. So we were taken to this forest one day, and we all got out. I took one step inside the tree line of this forest and nearly stood on a live 45mm Russian high explosive shell. So I stepped to the side and nearly stood on a German 7.5cm live high explosive shell. So I moved to the other side and nearly stood on an RPG-40 grenade that was live. And you just stop. And the whole of this forest is just littered with live ammunition. And the guys over in Kurland in Latvia, the ones that we did the filming for with Battlefield Recovery, they recover tons and tons and tons of this live ammunition, let alone the soldiers that they repatriate. The amount of ammunition that these guys gather up. The Latvian army is basically on call to these guys morning, noon and night. And the EOD guys from Latvia will come out. They know full well that they're going to have piled it all in one location. And there's just tons of the stuff out there. Just tons. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah,
I do. I must admit, I do enjoy watching their videos generally at the weekend in the morning. The live video. There was one a couple of weeks ago which went on for about 10 hours, and it was absolutely couldn't stop watching it. Absolutely fantastic. Legenda. They're on Facebook.
Legenda. Yeah.
Oh,
Look
Legenda.
at look at all this going pixelated here. Oh, if I stop waving it.
It's your hair under the hat, Dave.
Yeah. I'll do a bit of Bez and it'll stop. Yeah, that's better, Luke. You stay like that. So, when it comes to metal detecting, when did that start? How old were you when you first picked up a metal detector?
That was
why?
about, it must be 25 years ago now. So, I always used to get laughed at by the metal detecting fraternity because I used to use a bounty hunter. And I used it for about 15 years. But what people completely failed to realize was that I was looking for World War II stuff. I don't need to find a hammered coin 12 inches down or a quarter of a hammered coin. I need to find a cartridge case that's 3 inches down. So a bounty hunter to me was ideal because it did the job that I needed it to do. I mean, now obviously I've been swayed by peer pressure and I've got a Knox, but you know, I'd still use my bounty hunter if I could. Unfortunately, I think it's broke, but yeah, I could probably fix it.
So you went from a bounty hunter to a Knox?
I went from a bounty hunter to a Knox. And funnily enough,
wow.
I'd actually been metal detecting previously with other guys. Particularly, my brother was very good at. Well, not very good at it. My brother was into World War II metal detecting as well, but he was the most impatient metal detectorist I've ever met. He would swing the metal detector 3 times and go, "There's nothing here. Let's move on," and disappear off to the next field.
Sounds like my son.
But he was using an all singing, all dancing machine that had cost him 800 quid. I was using my 150 quid bounty hunter, and I was pulling more out of the ground than he was. I suppose really it's just knowing your machine, isn't it? It's knowing what it does and how it works. And it worked for me. It filled my garage with World War II relics.
So I was getting onto that. You've obviously, how many bullet cases have you got? Did you say 15,000?
No. Yeah, I said 15,000, but I said 15,000 303s. So that ignores every other caliber going. So in total, I've probably got somewhere in the region of 20,000 cartridge cases.
Where do you store them?
Well, strangely enough, the 303s mainly in buckets because I'm not going to line up 15,000.
Oh, right.
The display would be really boring. But I have currently I've moved house 3 or 4 weeks ago, so I'm just redoing my museum in a shed that I've had built. So I'm putting it all back out again. But prior to that, in my previous house, I had a double garage, and I dry lined one of the garages. And I filled that garage with stuff that I dug up.
Wow, you could have a museum soon, by the sound of it. Quite easily, I would have thought.
Yeah, I could, but unfortunately, I've not got the money to buy the building. I have been offered by a couple of people who already own museums to give me space to display my relics, but I've yet to succumb to that.
There's a very good one in Essex called the Military Museum in Essex, and the guy was a collector. Have you heard of it in Malden in Essex?
Yeah.
And he was a collector, and it was ridiculous. He ended up with tanks and everything. James Bond. It's got the largest James Bond collection in the world, as in real secret stuff. The cigarette that had a blow dart and stuff like that. Yeah. He's actually got those things, and the shoe. But that'd be interesting. He's got a bit of space, I think. So maybe, and it's near me. I live in Essex, so it'd be ideal for me to go. But yeah, it's one of those things. I think a lot of people metal detecting, and I do struggle with, is storing it all. And and you lose. You have a favourite find, and then suddenly it disappears in the plethora of all your bits. What is your? It's an awful question, but what is your favourite find?
That is an awful question.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said it.
I do have one find that I actually don't have because I returned it. I was once detecting on an old United States Air Force base, and I found the body of a watch. So no workings, nothing else, just the face basically. And on the back of it was inscribed somebody's name. Now, fortunately for me, it got quite an obscure surname, and within 24 hours, I'd tracked down a woman in America who was trying to trace every member of the Jelks family, and she said she knows who that is, and she knows his brother. So within 2 days of finding this watch, I was told, unfortunately, the guys whose watch it was had died in 1992, I think, but his brother was still alive, and his brother was a veteran of the Pacific War. And he confirmed the watch was his brother's because he remembers his parents giving it to him as a graduation present for graduating high school. And he also remembers him getting a letter from his brother saying, "I've lost mum and dad's watch." And I found it 70 years after he'd lost it. And curiously enough as well, the thing that really gets me about all of this is that Oliver Jelks was doing a pharmacy course when he quit to join the army. And I'm a pharmacist. So it's just a really weird coincidence.
You may be able to help Dave with these hemorrhoids.
Yeah, I may well be able to. Yeah. I'll need to have a look though, Dave.
Go for anything. I've got piles and piles of them. That was nearly as bad as me woof joke before, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
I was trying to share the screen then to go to Stephen's images of his museum, and I pressed leave studio by mistake.
I did wonder. So, Dave.
It is. It's going to me head. Laugh. Luke, I'm sharing the screen, and we'll go over to the images of. There we go. Marvelous.
Wow.
So this is. I take it this is the drywall in the old garage.
In the old garage, yeah. Yeah, so in actual fact, the stuff on the right hand side, that doesn't show anywhere near as all of it. It's the cupboards where the majority of the finds are. So you can see the cupboards down the end, the IKEA units. They're all full of Vickers parts and aircraft parts and bomb pistols and cartridge cases. But around about, I would estimate somewhere in the region of 90% of what is in that room, I have dug up. That's, believe it or not, that is all from one airbase. So earlier, Adrian, you were saying that the amount of live ammunition that there is around, when you consider that all of that cupboard is from one airbase, you're not wrong. The Americans especially spread live ammunition around like confetti. You can't go to an American airbase without finding live ammunition.
Well, that's interesting.
Even more.
Yeah, lots of bits. Yeah, that's that thing on the very top. It's got. Can you see that little prong that's poking up? That one. Yeah. That is that. I take that with military shows because I often get people coming along who are military experts, and that is my "I'm going to catch you out" find because it's the one thing that I don't label. Although thinking about it, I'm now going to have to find something else to not label. So if you know what that is, you are a real military World War II geek. And if you don't,
is it a Brent 100 magazine loading frame?
Yeah, okay. You know what it was? Come on.
It's just years of military history research and talking to people within the hobby. It's just led me to know these things more or less, and it's quite fascinating to be able to see it again in the flesh.
That's amazing, though. Still got the wood mount as well.
Still got the wood mount to it. Yeah, that was recovered from an old British Army dump.
Stephen, I see you've got some home guard stuff there. And one thing I'm always, when I'm out detecting, on my permission, there's a few pillboxes.
Yeah.
Do you find much round pillboxes? Because I've yet to find anything apart from a few sort of 303 blanks. The ones that are test bullets or ammunition. Do you find much around bunkers, pillboxes? Sorry, Dave. Can I just confirm with you, Dave, that Adrian's World War II terminology has always been this good? Test bullets.
Adrian's terminology is second nature to him, to be honest.
Pillbox.
Look, pillboxes are used since the end of the war for drinking beer and eating cake and eating ice cream and everything. You're not going to find anything.
I love cake.
You might love cake, but not just the wrapper. There's no point in searching around pillboxes. They've all got concrete floors. Outside is just full of beer cans and fag packets. There's no point.
No, it's a shame because they have been. I think Chris Rogers on his YouTube channel was the other month was saying how they're part of our history and they've been vandalised by ravers and people taking drugs, and it's such a shame because I've on the south coast Essex near me, we have a lot of pillboxes and some haven't been damaged. Some are really good condition and farmers have used them for hay and storing stuff, and they've not been vandalised. And I think that more time should be spent on looking after them, really, and somehow protecting them. But I just wondered because you see a pillbox and straight away you think World War II. Oh, there might be some ammunition around or something, cap badges, or even a little, I don't know, coins. I have found some coins around them, but that's about it. So it's interesting.
I'm more interested in the location from where the men came from to man the pillbox, rather than the pillbox itself. So
right,
if there was a barracks nearby, I'll search that, but I'll never search the pillbox because it's just you'll just find modern stuff. And this comes back really to what I said at the beginning about research. It's all well and good saying, okay, well there's an RAF base here, but if it's got a chicken farm on it and a carpenter's shop and an HGV park, you're not going to find anything.
No. How do you investigate how do you go about looking for the right sort of permissions? You said aircraft bases, but apart from those, do you look at any other areas like training camps or anything?
Yeah, very much so. And I have got a number of permissions on training areas and old army camps. And again, some of them are actually shown in the show World War II Treasure Hunters. So Garendon Park, for instance, was a site that I tagged along with Loughborough Coin and Search Society with, because they told me that one area of a specific field was full of military stuff. Now, one of the reasons that I joined that club was basically to help them with the military items, because they were finding stuff that could potentially be dangerous and didn't know what it was. The other reason I joined it is so that I could clear all the military stuff away, so that they could find the medieval stuff that was underneath it. So I'm kind of being used in a way, but I don't mind. But yeah, there's lots of sites like that. So I have a site over in Northamptonshire that's an old gunnery range that I was alerted to by a guy that was walking his dog and saw a mortar fin poking out the ground. Went and found the landowner, and you get permission and find the stuff. The first time I ever went to that site, I was there for an hour and I had to stop because my car was at that kind of angle. I've got so much stuff in the boot. It was ridiculous.
It's interesting though, because in the first lockdown, I was like everyone, desperate to get out detecting, and I detected my front and back garden. Not massive, sort of 50-foot front, 80-foot rear. And I was finding hell and all things, and I found a few 303s. And my neighbour, who he took over the house from his parents, who bought it in 1936, and he said, "Oh yeah, you'll find a lot of military stuff." And I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Oh, it's World War I training camp." I was like, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, all our houses were built on a World War I training camp." And since then, I've researched it and looked into it and found the local pub with pictures of soldiers outside, and it was huge where I live. And it's there. The history's there if you want to find it, but no one ever says, "Oh, where Adrian lives, his house is built on a World War I training camp." And since then, I've been detecting nearby, the fields nearby, and I found a cap badge from the Irish Fusilier Regiment. And I managed to trace it back to what I think is the person who wore it. So it's really interesting. There's a lot of history there if you do your research, especially from detecting in your garden.
Yeah, there is. There's an awful lot. And one of the things like that range I was just talking about then, the range where my car was at this ridiculous angle because I'd found so much stuff, I can find no record of it anywhere. there appears to be no record of it. Another interesting thing that I found is that when I research sites, I actually found that there was an old grenade range in a little village. I won't name the village because the council will go mad. But in a little village near where I live, there's an old grenade range that was in a sand pit. Well, that sand pit's not there anymore, basically because it's got a bloody school on top of it. I will guarantee that there are hundreds of grenades under that school that have not exploded because the Mills bomb, the number 36M, was notorious for not going off in about 10% of occasions. So there's going to be a load of live grenades underneath that school.
Wait, watch this space.
Yeah. One of my friends has actually got an old United States Army training area, and the council have built, again, I can't tell you where it is, the council have built a playground at one end of it, and he always assumed that the end that they'd built the playground at was the safe end, because he knew the butts were down the other end, the point at which they were aiming at. But he decided one day to go and detect on the playground because he felt like having some spare change. Found about £2.80 in loose change and 2 live American grenades.
Oh my Lord.
But it's everywhere. It's all over the place. The government just cannot afford to go around and clear up the areas. They just can't afford it. It would cost billions.
No, it's interesting though, because we had Nick West. You know Nick West? Yeah, we had Nick on the show a few months ago, and he was saying about a lot of metal detectorists will find a bit of iron or a bit of aluminium and don't realise, to them it looks like trash, but it is actually could be part of an aircraft or like a gun mount or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you quite often get people contact you and say, I found this, it just looks like a bit of iron, and you turn around and say, oh my God, that is a blah? Yeah,
all the time. I get 4 or 5 emails every single day through my website asking for help identifying things. Most of the time I can help out. I have to say though that if you have any military expert or relic hunter like me that says they know everything, they're lying to you. You don't know everything. Every day is a school day, and there's some stuff that I don't know. There's some stuff that I can't identify. But I try my best to help people. Especially those that send me pictures like a gentleman did about 3 weeks ago with a live high explosive 2-inch mortar on the draining board covered in washing up liquid foam because he'd obviously been cleaning it. To which I said, yeah, you need to get that in the back garden like now and get it off your draining board, you bloody idiot. But if it looks like a bomb and smells like a bomb, it's probably a bomb.
Yeah. Definitely. I also you're a retrieval chairman for World War II relics and retrieval.
Yeah, it's World War II Relic Retrieval and Preservation Group. Unfortunately, it's been in abeyance for the past year because of COVID, but we do go on quite regular digs. The last one that we did was actually a dump site that was found on an old RAF base that had around about 200,000 cartridge cases in it and about 500 bomb pistols and bomb fuses.
So how's that work? They contact you to come and clean it, or?
Yeah, it was a farmer who knew me and said he'd found this pit and did I want to come and have a look? And I went and had a look, and it was pretty astonishing. I think what's happened is at the end of the war, the RAF have gathered together all the unused bomb pistols and bomb fuses. Initially, we thought that the cartridge cases, because they were mainly 303s, were coming out of bombers that were at the base. But we then discovered, and this is how geeky I am, we then discovered that some of them had got Bren firing pin marks. Well, you don't use a Bren in a bomber. So we then reasoned that they must have come from the small arms range, because further down in the pit, we were finding Enfield clips and 9mm and 380s and 45 cals and others. But what they basically did was they piled all the cartridges in the pit, cartridge cases in the pit, then put a layer of incendiary bombs, then put all the bomb pistols and bomb fuses, then set fire to the incendiary bombs and walked away, and then just covered it over with earth. So the incendiary bombs did a marvellous job of deactivating the bomb fuses. Bomb pistols don't have charging, so they're deactivated anyway. And the only reason we know this is because we were finding the tile breakers from incendiary bombs in a layer of molten metal. So we knew what they'd set fire to it with. But underneath that molten metal was this massive pile of cartridge cases. And at one point I was reaching down up to my elbow and I still couldn't get the bottom of this layer. For I reasoned there was probably about 200,000 cartridge cases in this one pit.
Wow.
Wow. I bet the police love you.
Yeah. Well, they were all spent. They were perfectly legal. To the police, they are metal tubes. There's nothing more. Their primers are gone. There's nothing illegal about them at all. There was no live cartridges in there at all. There was no live bomb fuses. There was nothing. It was just all burnt. And but there's places like that in every single base. Every single base at the end of the war will have disposed of the stuff that they haven't used. And it's just a matter of finding it. That's all you've got to do, basically.
So is it normally a field sort of next door or a bit of farmer's land that they just drive it to?
Anywhere at all.
It's
normally, for instance, I know where the dump site is for. Oh crikey, I forgot the name of it now. One of the United States Air Force bases, but the dump site is 2.5 miles away from the outer perimeter of the airbase.
Wow!
But I know the unit because I found it in the records, and I've been to the site and I can see it's a dump pit. But yeah, it's things like that. Kim Bolton, that was the one I was thinking of.
They make fireworks.
We got someone in the chat room saying, "Ooh, look at that ugly git, a Mr. Addicted to Bleeps."
Talking about you.
Mr.
Chris
Addicted
is
to
talking
Bleeps
about you.
He's far, far uglier than me, and he's a ginger.
He's a fox. He's a fox.
He's not a fox.
I'm going to say hello as well to Dave Lawson, a pal of mine from work who's in the chat room. Nice to say, well, he's retired now, but lovely to see you there, Dave, anyway. It's been a while. It's been a while for me, most people from work, to be honest. So we're not going to go into the battlefield recovery. Obviously, that was some things are still going on that we can't go near that. But
it was something that happened, Dave.
Right. I'll find out off someone off there. But obviously, I watched the program back, as I say, after all the flack was given to it originally, and it's now available still to watch on Netflix. Got there in the end, and it's fascinating, especially the way you were obviously bringing the story, finding all the information, any of the remains that were found, you were burying them properly, going through all the processes properly, and it really did actually. Watching it made me realize more about what Legenda do as well, because obviously Legenda are in Latvia. It's a totally different country. We're not doing anything. Well, there are certain things that we do more or less in this country, but nothing on the scale that Legenda do. And it was quite fascinating. I was making some notes as well while we were talking. Archaeological dig I was doing with one of our guests a few months ago, Mark Ollie, in a place called, it's Welsh, hold on, Llanarmon in Ial in North Wales. Done it. Better than that, I'm Polish. We were actually metal detecting away of what we believe were some roundhouses there. And we knew there was a B-29 crash there at some point, but we weren't exactly sure in what area of Llanarmon. Well, next thing we dig up is the communications panel. Couldn't believe it. And then I start rivets, and being an aircraft fitter by trade, going back to my claims to fame for that was working on a Fairy Gannet and also on a Gypsy Moth when I was an apprentice at Airbus in Chester, picking loads of rivets up. And I'm like, they're rivets. What are rivets doing here? So we actually found where the crash site was as well. So absolutely. And it's something I'd love to do again in the future. I've got a book here somewhere. I mentioned it a few months ago. Got too many books. It's about the air crashes of the White Peak. So obviously I live in Congleton. There it is. White Peak air crash sites, even by Pat Cunningham. And there's actually two that are very, very close to me. And I keep meaning to communicate with them because, yeah, it's something I'd love to be able to do is concentrate now I know what I'm doing on an actual military site. So it must be fascinating, especially when you're bringing up the amount of, we go onto a site as a metal detectorist and it's generally coins, it's ring pulls, it's moo tubes, it's buttons. But to go and pick up things of that amount must be absolutely startling. Absolutely startling. And I do have 2 images that I'll have to send you, Steve, to ask your opinion on, because I've had mixed responses from people who in the military reenactment, people who are historians like yourself and what have you, and they're not sure what they are. And basically, they're a bullet, but with a wooden end. So I'll have to send you them pictures with scale and what have you, and see what you think of them. Are they just blanks? Is that all they are?
Yeah, send me
training.
Send me Adrian. Shush.
Blanks. Sorry. Yeah, they're used for training in the 303, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yes. Yeah. Very, very early.
One's a little skinny one, and one's a bit.
One of the earliest 303. One of the earliest 303 training cartridges that was developed actually had a thin metal bullet, basically, in the end. And they stopped manufacturing it because what they found was, even though the thin metal bullet at the end, which looked like a bullet, didn't have any lead or antimony or anything inside it, so it was very light. Unfortunately, still killed people if you hit them with it. So they're one of the earliest blanks. But you can find wooden blanks as well. The German 7.92 millimeter Mauser cartridge, the ones that the Germans used in the MG34, the MG42, loads of weapons. They especially are well known for having wooden bullets as blanks.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I've got to try, while we're talking, I'm going to try and, well, you talk and I'll try and find them. I've got to try and find them now. I know where they are on my phone somewhere.
Oh, do you?
Dave.
All right, well, I need the head stamps. Have you got the head stamps?
I don't know.
Get the head stamps.
The markings on the board, Dave.
You two chat amongst yourselves for a moment, and I'll look where I think it is.
While he's looking at that, just one thing while he's looking for it is he needs to be careful if he does go digging on any old air crash sites. What you have to remember is that every single air crash site in the UK is protected under the Military Remains Act. So you cannot even remove one single item from the surface. If you are looking for it deliberately. If you stumble across it, I've heard that the MOD are a little bit lenient with you. But basically, if you dig any aircraft site in the UK, you need a license from the Ministry of Defence.
Didn't know that. Is that any aircraft, even if it's military or commercial or, anything like that?
I'm not sure about commercial, but why you would want to go digging up...
No, I mean, like, say, a Piper Apache or something like that, something that's not military then.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I just know the Military Remains Act. I'm a military expert, not unfortunately a civilian aircraft expert. So
that's interesting, Stephen, because one of my permissions, we started detecting, me and my mate, and the farmer came out and he said, over there near that tree, he said a plane crashed in the Second World War. And most people would probably think, oh, great. And I was like, uh-oh. And straight away, I phoned Jules, Julian Evan Hart.
Jules.
And he said, keep away from it, mate. And we found it. It was just constant and beep, 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 and the farmer was like, oh, let us know if you dig anything up. And we were like, no, we can't dig it. And he's like, why not? And I said, no, we're not allowed to dig it.
Yeah.
And he said, about 20 years ago, someone did dig it and they went down deep and they found a body, like an ankle bone and some bits and bobs. And they're like, whoa. And I think this was before it was properly managed. So we kept away from it. There is an airfield near me, actually, which was used in the Second World War for damaged planes in Essex. You might know the one, Bradwell. Do you know that?
No, Bradwell. No.
No, it's there's an airbase there, British airbase, and I've got a permission near there, and it's currently closed because apparently it's dangerous because there's a lot of live ammunition there. But that's quite interesting because my dad actually, well, bless his soul, he passed away last year, but he recollects when he was with his dad, who drove lorries, that planes were coming in with sort of half an engine out or the wing, and they used to crash land. And just before the runway, no, just after the runway, they had a forest where they planted pine trees, which the planes could crash into if they missed the runway. And there's a lot of wreckage there. And it's quite interesting because we found a lot of flares. Do you find a lot of these big flares that we used to guide the planes in? They're like quite huge things. We found, and they were literally in this forest. And like what you said earlier, they're not deep. They're probably 2-3 inches, just literally under the ground. You can literally find them with your hands on the surface. But were those flares used to, I presume they were used to guide the planes in from...
Well, they were used by the planes as well. The planes would fire them to notify ground crew that they'd got, for instance, a wounded man on board. So they would be used. The interesting thing about those flare cartridges, if they're the ones that I'm thinking you're referring to, did some of them have a gnarled rim? So they've got...
Yes.
Yeah. That's so that they can tell what colour they are at night. So one with a completely plain rim is just a standard white flare. And I can't recall off the top of my head. A quarter rim is green. Half of the rim gnarled is red. But that's the reason that they've got gnarling on the edge of the rim. It's so that you can tell what colour it is at night. Especially when you're in a plane and you've got, you're getting back at 3 a.m. and you need to fire a red flare. You need to know what it is. So they'll have gnarling on the rim.
Oh, wow. That is exciting. Is that on your website?
No, it's not. No, that's me being a geek.
No, but it's things like that I love, because at first I thought it was a bullet, and then I thought, no one. It's huge. They're big, aren't they? They're like RNLI flares.
1 inch.
And I've got quite a few of those. And you're right, they've got that rimming on them at the bottom.
Yeah. If you have a look, different rims. Hang on, Dave's laughing at something.
He said rimming.
Oh, for God's sake.
We're not talking about shafts tonight.
Well, you were talking about flares, and I thought you were on about your fashion sense.
No.
Flares and rimming. Are we going back into 70s porn all of a sudden?
That's in half an hour. With World War II treasure hunters, is there plans, or can't you say, for a new series?
COVID put a stop to most of the production work that was going on, but there are things going on that it might not have been the end of World War II treasure hunters. Let's put it that way.
Good.
Oh,
and am I right in saying that this Monday on Blaze they're going to be playing World War treasure hunters all day, back to back?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. They do it quite regularly. Actually, the first time I saw it done was Christmas Eve of all times, when they played the whole series back to back. But it got very, very good ratings. The challenge that you have nowadays, unfortunately, with the television world is that nobody's got any money. So it's about finding the money to make these television shows. And unfortunately, with something like World War II treasure hunters, it's no good just doing an episode with me and Suggs trudging around a field digging stuff up. You need the archive footage. You need the experts. You need to be able to go to museums. You don't necessarily need to fly in a Spitfire, but I could see why they did it. But it's that kind of stuff that then costs you the money. So it's about finding the money for these shows more than anything.
Which we're currently seeing with Time Team having to produce their own via Patreon. Exactly the same reasons.
Yeah.
What would you say of everything that you've done up to now, season 1 and 2? What would your favourite standout episodes be?
My favourite will always be. Well, there's 2 favourites, but for different reasons. The first one was the Quorn episode because I was terrified we weren't going to find anything, and we did. We found an awful lot. But by far, my favourite episode, I think, is digging up the Defiant, the Bolton Paul Defiant. Basically, because it was the first proper aircraft dig that I'd been on, and I had the great honour and privilege of meeting Sandy Ballantyne, the pilot's daughter. And spending time with this lady who lost her dad. She never really knew him, all because of somebody in Harley Street cocking up a very simple operation and basically cutting into Sandy's optic nerve and blinding him in one eye, which grounded him, which then meant that he became ground crew. He went across to Normandy on D-Day +2 or 3 and was killed in Normandy. If that guy in Harley Street hadn't have botched the operation, Sandy would never have been in Normandy and his daughter would have known him. But that story was truly immense because we managed to follow it right from the very beginning of Sandy joining the RAF all the way through his career and ending, unfortunately, at his grave in Douvres in France, which is where he was buried. Bless him.
Wow.
And are there any locations that you would like to do more than any other?
Yeah, I still have quite a few locations that I keep on the back burner because every time one of these series comes around, I will produce around about 24 different stories for the show. The producers themselves will come at me with 10 or 12 as well, and between the two of us, we'll whittle it down to a series of 8. But there are a lot of locations that I would still love to dig. I'd like to go diving on the Tirpitz and things like that, but probably not going to be something that will happen. But there's places in Scotland, for instance, where you were talking earlier about James Bond. Well, Ian Fleming was actually based up in Scotland when the Commandos were first formed at a place called Inverrailort. And it's quite a famous place. That's probably pronounced wrong. There's probably an awful lot of Scottish people now shouting at their computer screens. But that's where a lot of the Commandos turned up, and there's a story that goes around that they were all in the foyer of this grand house when 2 elderly gentlemen appeared at the top of the stairs, whose names were Mr. Fairburn and Mr. Sykes. And they fell down the stairs, and when they hit the bottom of the stairs, they landed in a position at which they both got daggers in their hands, and they were in a position to attack the nearest man to them. And that's where the Fairburn Sykes dagger comes from. These 2 guys were real, and they were complete nutcases.
Wow,
Good lads,
brilliant, brilliant stuff.
What's of obviously all the sites you've been doing it a long time? What's the most dangerous thing that you've found?
Well, the most dangerous thing, actually, you see, one of the things that I have to try and get across to people is that I do sometimes get challenged by some members of the public and sometimes military people as well, who think that when we show the television show with me going, oh, it's a number 860 bomb fuse, it's a barometric fuse, it was attached to flares, it would open at 10,000 feet. They think that I'm being prompted with this stuff. Unfortunately, I'm not. All the guys that film with me, we don't do second takes. I'll walk over and go, yes, it's that, and this is what it is. But sometimes you have a situation where, unfortunately, the television company may want a little bit more jeopardy than you can give them. So the most dangerous thing that I found was the bomb from the Junkers 88. However, we'd already got information that there was a 90% certainty that bomb had burnt out when the plane hit the ground, because local residents remember there being a massive Roman candle. Now, that was the bomb burning out through the hole fracturing the casing. So we kind of knew that it was probably safe, but of course you don't know for sure. So when a digger dumps a 500 kilogram, and remember this is kilogram, not pounds, a 500 kilogram bomb on the side of the hole, you do go a little bit bum clenchy and go, yeah, I'm going to go over there really quick.
The show itself again, what procedures are in place, health and safety wise, behind the scenes to just in case purposes?
It's a full health and safety procedure. So we all have a health and safety talk at the beginning of every single day's shooting. The talk is repeated after lunch. And it's just governed. And one of the main things is that if anything's found that people don't know what it is, they don't dig it. So it stays in the ground until somebody, either myself or one of the other military experts that we have with us, goes along and identifies it. Because you have to remember as well that sometimes we're spread over quite a wide area. So we could be 1.5 miles apart, for instance. So it's important that we have people that are capable of identifying stuff within each location. But yeah, health and safety is very high on these things. So.
You mentioned before about you wanted to go diving on the tar pits. No,
Tirpitz.
it wasn't that.
That was
Tirpitz.
it was kind of like a joke, Dave, to be honest.
Oh, right.
But yeah, I'd say Tirpitz was the sister of Bismarck, and she was bombed in a Norwegian field by Lancasters carrying tall boy bombs. So there's bits of her still down there, but it's just it's a World War II geeky kind of thing to say, I'm afraid.
Well, the reason I was going that way, I don't know if you are. I spoke to Gary Bankhead. I've done an interview with Gary Bankhead from River Hunters this week. Is there any plan for anything World War II underwater treasure hunters, for instance?
It has been suggested in the past that I join forces with people like River Hunt. It's Bo we met, isn't it? But again, it all boils down to which direction the television companies are going in, what shows they want, what kind of money they've got. So there's an awful lot of good ideas that get batted around that unfortunately never end up as anything. But basically, it's down to what we can get filmed and how much we can do it for, basically. So,
with regard to you say, like a lot of us, we all have real jobs. We're not history hunters and metal detectorists 24/7, which would be nice. How does your hobby fit in around your full-time job? Do you get out every weekend, or do you take days off?
No, I have a rule actually, and the rule governs how many times I go out digging. Now, you have to bear in mind that since COVID, I've actually not been out digging at all. I've not dug since November 2019 was the last time I went out digging. My day job takes me away a lot of the time, and I don't want to break the regulations, so I've stuck to the regulations. But I have a rule that I have to have cleaned everything from my previous dig before I'll go digging again. So normally it's once every 4 or 5 weeks. Again, this boils down to research. So my research will give me a site that will give me so many finds that it takes me 4 or 5 weeks to clean them. So I therefore will then go on another dig 4 or 5 weeks down the line. But I do tend to clean things quite quickly just to preserve them.
Out of interest, what do you use to preserve your finds?
It depends what it is. So it's the kind of thing that I know there's an awful lot of archaeologists watching this, and they'll all throw their arms in the air and scream and yell and all sorts. But the kind that I'm digging up is dirty, great big lumps of iron. And my main aim is to stop the stuff rusting. So I've used lots of techniques in the past that prevent rust from recurring. But the main one that I use nowadays, I'm afraid to say, and I am sorry, archaeologists, I truly am, but I do use citric acid to kill rust. So I will drop iron objects in citric acid. Now, just bear in mind that this is World War II stuff. So I'm not losing any of the importance of the object by doing this. I'm just trying to stop it corroding away to nothing, basically. So yeah, that's what I use. But a lot of the stuff like the brass cartridge cases, I do nothing more than clean it with soapy water because I don't want to get rid of the patina, because the patina is part of the history of the object.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Yeah, definitely. Because I saw in one of your pictures you had wood there, and obviously wood can decay once out of the ground. So I suppose your mini museum is hopefully holding place, and certain things, because we all find stuff, and I'm the same. I'm always, there's the cleaning pencil company, which is Graham Dempsey in it, Dave, and he does a special wax which I use, and it keeps the patina and stuff. But you're always like, should I? And cat badges I find one of the hardest because they're so intricate, aren't they? If you find a cat badge, you don't want to let it break or damage. And I probably in 50, 100 years' time, like people used to lacquer stuff or whatever, beeswax years ago, there's always someone moaning about something. But the way I look at it, it would never have been out of the ground for people to enjoy if you hadn't found it.
What do you mean about beeswax years ago? I was only using it till Graham sent me the kit.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of people saying use natural things, and some people say no, leave it as it is. There's so much stuff. Some people say lacquer it, hairspray. There's so many different types of things, but it depends you know, like I say, it wasn't found. So as long as you can share it with people when you've got it, that's all that matters, isn't it?
It is, and to be honest with you, if it's not corroding, if it's not literally falling apart in your hand, why would you want to put anything on it anyway? Just put it in an area that's dry, that's not exposed to moisture, and it'll be fine. It'll last another 100, 150 years, 1,000 years. Gracious back. I mean, how quickly is brass going to degrade if it's not corroding? It's yeah. Sometimes I do get exasperated that people are coating stuff in wax and things like this, but sometimes you have to just to prevent it corroding anymore. It depends how bad it is. But I've never put any books on anything that I've found. No, I haven't. No.
That's interesting. One question I've got is, I love trench art. No doubt a lot of people do. But do you ever find, obviously, trench, it's been made in the trenches, but do you ever find anything intricate that's been made on military bases? So the RAF pilots, for example, waiting for their planes to fly out and be prepared. Do you ever find anything like tobacco tins or ammunition that people have like tweaked and designed or anything?
Yeah, all the time. Every single base is full of them. And what you often find is a cartridge case that's been cut and had a sleeve inserted in it. Blimey! Just 1 second, because I'm actually looking at one now. Can I get up and get it?
Yeah, go on, get it, Stephen. It's this month's treasure hunting's got. Oh, it's gone all green screen. It's got something in it, similar sort of thing. It's got some trench art in there, which is very, very interesting.
Right. Okay. So I was digging in an old United States Air Force base dump, and everybody's going to get shocked at this, but they will soon see that it's completely safe. All right. So I found that.
Could we share your screen?
There we are.
Okay, so that's a standard American issue 50 caliber bullet. 50. You see, you've got me doing it now. 50 caliber cartridge case, made in Des Moines, 1943. DM43. Now the percussion cap, the blast cap on the bottom, has got an indent in, so I know it's been fired, but it's still got the bullet in situ. Now, it wasn't until I got it home and cleaned it that I also realised that there's actually a groove halfway down the case. And if you just twist it, it comes apart.
Look at that.
So somebody has taken this cartridge case and they have inserted this metal sleeve into it in the process of turning it into some form of trench art. Now, what they finally wanted it to be, which we'll never know because it ended up in the dump site. But that is a 50 caliber cartridge piece of trench art that came out of an old United States Air Force dump, and I presume it was going to be a lighter. It could actually be something like a matchbox, to keep his matches dry. But that is the kind of thing that you find. And I found, oh crikey, I must have found 10 lighters made from small arms cartridge cases in the past.
Wow. Are they very?
Adrian, I'm going to have to interject because it's draw time. Luke, could you share the screen, please? And we'll go over to Diggers Dips Draw in a minute.
Some of those.
It started in 5. Oh, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Right, Steve, pick a number between 1 and 39.
37.
Adrian.
7.
And I'll go for 27 then. Keep it in the 7s. And the first prize this week is a Reading Land book. Second prize is a cleaning pencil, courtesy of the Cleaning Pencil Company. Composite cleaning pencil, cleaningpencil.com. Oh, could be Adrian. And third prize, entry into any Diggers Dips draw. Don't forget, this is a free draw. Number 7.
Oh, no. Oh, God.
Adrian, psychic. Yeah. Well done to Diddy Superman. Is that Scotty B?
He messaged me today.
Stephen, second number, please.
25.
Adrian?
11.
And I'll go
It's a
for
fridge.
11. I'll go
The
for
fridge.
11. Oh, it's got to be 11. I'm glad I went for 11 as well. 12.
Oh.
12. And the winner of that is Norman 182. Stephen?
17.
Adrian?
27.
13. I've no idea what numbers anyone said that time.
I thought you controlled the button, Dave.
No, it's done the draw itself.
I was joking.
The site does it all.
I know, I was joking. Oh,
right.
please don't be 27.
Go on, 27. 28.
Oh,
I'll tell you what, you're close, Daz, 2110. So, Diddy Superman wins the Reading Land Book, the cleaning pencil from Norman 182, and the free entry into any draw is Daz 2110. You'll be contacted by Diggers Dips. Thanks to them as ever for doing the free draw, and to Graham from the Composite Cleaning Pencil for his putting that in as well. So there's the draw that week, and you can see how we get so excited about the draw every week without fail.
I never enter it.
And talking of draws, don't forget we have a live special on Saturday night at 7:30 for the second round of detectable prizes for the second draw this weekend. 7:30, usual places as you are now, and that's for the detectable spring draws. So there you go. Adrian, back over to you. Any more questions you want to ask?
The spring detectable, the Rene Hospice. There's a lot of prize draws on the internet and stuff, but a lot of money from this goes to help the Rene Hospice, which would have made money from detectable, which none of us could attend, sadly. So yeah, get on the website, go to it, Google it, spring detectable, and there's some really good prizes there. And I think
we'll actually play the video on Saturday again of the lady from Rene Hospice, because she spoke so passionately about the place, didn't she?
Well, especially when she said it costs so many thousand a day or something to run, and you know, unfortunately, some of us watching tonight and some of us in the show will end up somewhere like that. So you know, it's nice to put money towards a good cause. So go for it. And it's they've lost a lot of money because of COVID, like a lot of charities, but. Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, when the next detectable starts, we can all get back together. Which leads me on to Stephen. Have you been to detectable?
No, never been.
Have you thought of going?
Well, no, not really. I'm kind of niche, aren't I? Let's face it. I don't think. Well, you say you think you are, but. I know for myself, when I'm out detecting, I reckon probably 10-20% of my finds are World War II related. And yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. But when I joined Loughborough Coin and Search Society, the running joke that went round was that if any of the regular detecting guys found anything military, it would go in the nearest hedge. Now, unfortunately for them, a few weeks after that, I did a talk on military finds. And somebody at the end said, what do you do if you find a Roman or a medieval coin? I said, well, strangely enough, I do what you do with World War II stuff and chuck it in the nearest hedge because it has no interest to me whatsoever. So that's why I've never been to detectable. It's not something that I feel like I would actually fit into, if you see what I mean, because I want to find World War II stuff. I'm not bothered about coins or buckles or things like that. It's just I'm very centered on what I'm looking for.
So I take it you'd go otherwise to a lot of military, got the pixelation, military events.
Yeah, I do displays at military events as well. So the main one that I attend each year is the Victory Show, which is in Cosby in Leicestershire, which hopefully will run this year. It's normally the first weekend in September. And I have in the past been to places like War and Peace, and done displays there of the kind of relics that we've dug up. The first time I went to War and Peace, I went with a couple of good friends of mine, and yeah, it was really good.
Have you ever been to Bunker Bash?
No, not been to that either.
No, it was a big one in Essex. We have a secret nuclear bunker. I don't know if you heard of it.
We've got one in Norwich.
Yeah, 1950s. It can hold about 800 troops, and it's a bungalow in a forest. And you go underground. It's got operating theatre, train station, BBC broadcasting studio, everything. It's huge. Google it, the Essex secret bunker. And it was a few years ago, they had a bunker bash, and they had a military reenactment. It was predominantly World War II, and they had Germans and English, and they had guys digging bunkers and tents and staying all weekend, and they reenacted it, and they were living it. They were eating the food that they would have eaten in World War II, probably those biscuits. But I took my son and my mate and his son, and it was the best day out ever. And of course, you got stands selling stuff. You got people talking about stuff. It wasn't metal detecting, but it's all history, and it's all something which was really good. But I think it's one of those things. It got technical issues, and now COVID, obviously, because I suppose with COVID, Stephen, you're struggling to meet up with your chums one-to-one at these events.
Yeah, very much. A lot of them, they've all been cancelled, so don't meet them anymore. But we'll be fine. We'll come out of this eventually, hopefully. Yeah,
I think we're as a pharmacist, we could start asking you COVID questions, couldn't we?
I'm here for military stuff tonight. I'm not asking.
Oh, Dave, he's not going to do it.
It's all right, mate. We'll talk. I'm sure we'll talk about trench foot. That's the only thing I can think of that's military related and chemists and what have you.
I don't want to see your rash, Dave. You keep it to yourself, mate.
I showed you before the show.
I know. You can keep it to yourself.
Again, no. I've got a couple more questions. Somebody asked at the start of the show. I did write it down. What would be your ultimate war memorabilia discovery?
Cool, blimey. Well, I'm not sure whether or not it's memorabilia. I mean, the one thing that I've always wanted to dig is my favourite aircraft of World War II, which is a Hawker Typhoon. So any piece of Hawker Typhoon that I've dug myself, to be honest, would probably be my most favourite find. It used to be Spitfire, but I've now found 2 pieces of confirmed Spitfire, and then went and dug an entire Spitfire up. So that one's gone on the back burner now. But yeah, anything from a Hawker Typhoon, really.
Good aircraft. Yeah. It was the Hawker business jet, the 125 I was working on at Airbus mainly. When I was there.
The Hawker Typhoon had a serious fault that they remedied in the most simplistic way. When the Typhoon first came out, the tail used to fall off when they went into a dive. So what they did was they got little rectangular pieces of metal and riveted them all the way around the tail, where the tail joins the fuselage, and that prevented it. So it's one of those things of World War II ingenuity that the way around it was just let's put some rectangular pieces of metal on it to hold it together.
You see, if it was nowadays, they'd use the aluminium tape instead, and it'd still fall off because they use that on most wings as well. Adrian, have you got any more questions, or anybody else in the chat room? Have you got any more questions you'd like us to ask Steve this evening? Adrian, have you got anything yourself?
I will probably geek out on things like flares and stuff, not 70s ones. Talking about bullets that I find. What out of interest, what's the rarest type of bullets that you have come across where you think that shouldn't? Obviously, like German ones in the UK and stuff.
Oh, German ones in the UK are actually quite common. Found loads.
Really?
I mean, we shouldn't do because the one difference between German and Allied aircraft was that the Germans had bins to collect the cartridge cases, whereas the Allied aircraft spat the cartridge cases out the bottom of the wings. So you shouldn't really find German cartridges in the UK, but you do. They're all over the place. But strangely enough, when I was talking earlier about the dump pit that we found on the RAF base that had those 200,000 cartridge cases in there, in amongst all those cartridge cases were some cartridge cases that I misidentified to begin with. That's me admitting I got something wrong, because I thought there were 45 caliber ACP, automatic Colt pistol cartridge cases, but they were very, very slightly longer by about 2 millimeter. And I eventually worked out that they were from a British automatic pistol, a .455, not a .45. So they're really rare. I've never seen them before, and they threw me. But there you go.
That's interesting how the Germans kept their spent shells. That's interesting. That is. That's German, isn't it? I suppose they took them back and recycled them.
Yeah, well, they recycled all the weapons that they captured from the Poles and Czechs and the French. They recycled them all. For instance, they used French mortar bombs as cluster bombs from their aircraft. They renamed them SG-1s and just dropped mortar bombs everywhere.
Wow. Still lost. Never mind. Yeah.
I always buzz my head off every time I find a Reichspfennig. I'm trying to understand why there's a Reichspfennig in the middle of Shrewsbury with no known military things locally. It always gets me. I love finding them.
POWs.
Yeah, probably.
POWs or bringbacks. The veterans brought them back as well.
Costas Constantino is asking a question earlier on, which I think is where he can get entry into the Detectable competition. If you go to detectable.com, there will be a route on there which will take you to the competition, and you'll be able to enter how many times you want and whatever you would like to on there. So no worries there. I'm right in saying it is detectable.com. If I look on my phone, actually, because
just
Karen
Google
sent
it.
me a picture earlier. It's all right. Karen sent me a picture earlier. I just don't know where that is either.
Did she?
She did.
Excellent. And that's this Saturday.
The lovely Mrs. Becker.
This Saturday at 7:30, isn't it, Dave?
That's correct. And there's the picture. www.detectable.com/competitions. So, and she said it'll be better this week because she's using Mark's Mac instead of a laptop that kept on going last time.
Yeah, so very, very slow. Very, very slow.
Well, I can't see any more questions in there. Next week, I'm hoping to have. I've not organised the guest as yet. I've been a little bit busy, and I've not been able to message him. But we've got somebody who has agreed to come onto the show, and I'd like to get him on sooner rather than later, given the position on the British television-y type thing that he is at the moment. So I'll chat to him in the coming days. Now I'm off work because it's been such a long week at work.
Yeah.
So it's been very, very difficult. So Stephen, it's been an absolute pleasure. What I'm going to do, we've got on the website on archmdmag.com, up there somewhere, up there, the magazine. We do have an identification section and a research section. So I will link automatically to your pages regarding research and identification, so people can obviously automatically find things military-wise, seeing as it's already there. If that's okay with yourself.
Yeah, most certainly.
Here we go. There we go. Look, there it is. Look at that.
Oh, look at that.
Look at Adrian now. Adrian, look at him.
Yeah. Bullets. Loads of bullets. Yeah. No, I'll be on there tonight.
Yeah. The other thing about the website as well is that I do show every find that we recovered from World War II Treasure Hunters episodes. So the show itself, we could only show you a very small proportion of what we'd actually found. So I've got blogs on there that show everything that was recovered during each episode.
Fantastic.
Brilliant. Excellent.
As well as over 300 World War II manuals as well that you can download. Don't like plugging your own website.
Fantastic.
No, too right. Good on you.
And don't forget, I'm pretty sure this Monday
Dave.
on... Oh, look, there you are. Blaze on Monday. I'm pretty sure it's on Monday all day, because one of the people from the production company who made River Hunters, who I presume it's the same company, is it?
Well,
Stephen?
it's the same channel.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, he's asked me to let people know that it's running, and I'm pretty sure it's this coming Monday, and that leads up to those who don't know. Season 2 of River Hunters starts on History UK on Monday night. I think it's 9 p.m. Me and Adrian have been lucky enough to see the first episode, and it's a doozy, isn't it, mate? Adrian, stop geeking out.
Really, really good. Yeah, really good.
By a satellite, that, mate. Yes, and one of the
I've got a very
finds
long tongue.
So have I. One of the finds in particular is it's of national importance to Scotland as well. Having a tongue off. We're having a kiss off.
I'm not joining in.
Easy now, Tiger.
No, it's random.
Costas Constantino, Detectable organised the raffle. Detectable.com, contact them. They'll have the, I don't know, it'll be admin at detectable.com, but there'll be if you go to detectable.com, there'll certainly be a link there for the email to contact them, and that's who are running that particular. Or are you talking about the prize draw that we have during the show? If that's the case, it's Diggers Dips, and you can get them via www.diggersdips.com. So not sure what you're on about there, but I'm sure it's sorted. Right, well, tonight, everything's working fine, so we'll be able to have the viewers' finds on tonight. So I've added some of last week's in as well. There's some fantastic ones. I've learned how to make videos now, haven't I, Adrian?
Yes, you've got a computer now, Dave, and you're making...
it's not a computer, it's on my phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always
No, it's good. Really good, mate. Well done.
Stephen, is there anything else you'd like to add before we leave?
No, I'm great. Thank you, guys. It's been an honour and a pleasure.
You're more than welcome. If you want to come back anytime in the future to discuss any new information, to discuss any new series, anything like that, give me a shout and we'll sort that out. No problem. We're here every Thursday night, sadly, for most people, but we are here with bad dad jokes and such like. And Adrian always has to lower the tone by saying things like shaft or rimming or things like that. Always lower the tone.
rimming, yeah. Thanks for coming on, Stephen. And also, I'd like to quickly thanks Stephen, obviously, for coming on. But well done to Chris, Addicted to Bleeps, hit 100,000 subscribers today.
Oh, now do you remember what he actually said would happen when he gets the award?
He's not doing that naked thing again, is he?
He's going to bury the award for someone else to find, or is he?
He'll get his plaque. Yeah. So no, good on him. Good on him. So
yeah. So thanks to everybody tonight, to Stephen, to Adrian, to Luke, to all the viewers. Obviously, please interact on the Big Detecting Show Facebook group. We'll put your finds in there throughout the week. There's an absolute stunning one gone on tonight. Absolutely stunning. A sword pommel and a bit of gold by Paul Bamford. Yeah.
Bamford.
Have a look at that. Absolutely stunning. Too late to add to the video.
That's a shame. That's a shame. I thought you were referring to the 303 that I posted up. That's terrible.
Sadly not. We didn't put the bullet on.
Put the bullet in.
Yeah, bullets. We love bullets.
Right, thanks again, everybody. Luke, if you could run the video, and we will see you all at 7:30 on Saturday. Good night, all.
Will you search the lonely earth for me? Climb through the briar and bramble. I'll be your treasure.
Actually, I'm going to have to redo that one because I put the wrong one on. No idea where I'm looking. No idea whatsoever. Just bear with me a minute.
I tell you what, it's a good job. It's a good job there's a little comment down the bottom of the screen that says you are still visible to viewers, because otherwise I'd have take my kit off and go, yeah.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to actually have to squish.
Oh, he's gone.
No,
he's
obviously
done, he's cut himself off again.
He's quit the studio again.
He's cut himself off. Well, I suppose I better do a sponsorship.
I'm back.
Here he is. Here he is.
I'll tell you what I've done. I've downloaded the wrong date. That's why. I put it up on YouTube off my phone and then I've downloaded the wrong date. So that's my fault. So we're going to have to watch it via YouTube instead, if I can actually find it.
Oh, Dave. That was so good as well.
I've come in from work and I'm so bloody tired. I'm just
working with amateurs. Just amateurs.
Oh, I'll tell you what, we need to go to your chemist.
Where are we now?
Dave needs to get some, what's it called? Pro Plus or something.
And your soul.
Right, I'm there now. Where is it now? How'd you get bigger? There you are. What am I doing?
I can help with that as well, Dave.
Right, as I said, sadly, we're going to have to do this via YouTube because I've downloaded the wrong link. So here's the outro again. I even cut myself off again then. Here we go. Thanks all. Good night.
Night.
Bye.